I felt like I was a little bit too low energy the last time I recorded, so I drank a coffee before recording this time. So I'm bursting with flavor. Nope, don't like that. I should not refer to myself as bursting with flavor. What's up, gamers? I've been wanting to fix the camera in my game for a long time. There's a lot of issues that can arise when you're making a pixel art game. The one I commonly just call it pixel jitter, because that's what it feels like to me, where the sprites are going like, and there's like a lot of reasons why this happens. And whenever you try to like look into like, you know, Godot, why is my camera jittering and what's with the pixel jitter, you get like a bajillion different reasons it could be happening. And I don't want to bore you with like a technical breakdown, especially when I might be completely freaking wrong about what I'm saying. But let's just take it at like a really high level. So let's put Isadora's sprite on the screen, right? And what is this right here? Inside the circle. Did you say a pixel?
Well, then you're absolutely freaking wrong, you dimbus. I tricked you. That's what I wanted you to say, but it's not the correct answer.
And it's not the correct answer because I don't know what you're watching the video on. Now, it might line up to be exactly 1 pixel, but if you're watching on like a 4K television or something, or just a 4K computer monitor, that pixel is actually a whole bunch of pixels just pretending to be that 1 pixel. You know what I mean? And when that happens, the pixel has to get scaled up. And when you're scaling up a whole bunch of pixel art, there's a bunch of stuff that can go wrong. The big one is if you're not scaling by an even number. Like, you can stretch it out so that 1 pixel is actually just like a little grid, like a 2x2 grid. That's really clean pixel art. Or a 3x3 grid. That's also really clean pixel art. But the problem is that it has to be completely consistent. Also, this is in Godot. And Godot lets you have like fractional values, right? Sometimes you want to move the camera by like 1.2 units. And when you do that, you have to move the pixels on the screen by 1.2 units. And when you're like pretending that this 1 pixel represents the character, what does it mean to move it by 0.2? A pixel's like the smallest it can be. They have to agree on what is this like fake pixel arrangement, right? I realized that it's really hard to tell what's going on with the issues in the pixel cameras unless you're like actively looking at it while knowing what to look for. So I figured I would jump into voiceover mode right here and kind of walk through a bunch of the examples so you can see all the little things I'm trying to fix up, all the little compromises I don't want to have to make. All right, so let's go into voiceover mode. I'll show you what's going on with the camera. First things first, I want to go through some examples that I found by looking through the footage from the previous version of the project, from the old build that was for the Game Jam. And we can see that these were in like the nearly finished version of the game. I had already applied all the fixes that I'm like currently aware of that like I've done a million times. It still had these issues. They're not super obvious, but I wanted to point them out. So first off, we can see some of the like classic pixel jitter, as I'm calling it, in this checkpoint. As the camera comes to a stop behind Isadora near this checkpoint, you can see that it doesn't really settle in a good position. Let me zoom in on the like checkpoint pixel art. You can see it kind of like gurgle around when the camera's trying to come to a stop on it. And it should be like a nice clean stop, but it doesn't really work like that. It might be a little bit hard to tell because it's zoomed in, but the camera it shouldn't be wiggling around like that. It should feel firmly planted in the world space. It shouldn't feel like it's scooting around on top of the tiles, you know? Now, let me go to an issue that I was kind of calling frame stutter. You can see as the camera comes to a stop, it's not jittering the same way the checkpoint is. It just feels like it doesn't quite settle on its position at the same time the camera moves, right? It sort of lags behind the camera just a touch and then jumps into place. I was calling that frame stutter. I don't know if that's like a great way to call it, but it just looks a little funky. I'm sure you can see the very fine details of what I'm talking about. And then finally, I want to go through, I found this clip of some footage. It has some of what I was calling boiling, where the pixels don't take a while to settle on their destination. They take a while to settle on their size. So you can see the tiles almost sort of like melting into place as the camera comes to a stop. We can replay this and let's even slow it down so we can really see the like boiling pixels because it looks a little bit funky. When it's happening at full speed, it's not as noticeable, but since I'm staring at this constantly while I'm working on it, it's very noticeable to my eyes. And then also in this clip, we have one of the worst artifacts you can get, which is pixel tearing. Also like tile tearing. You can call it whatever you want, but it's one of the worst ones. It looks completely awful. It's when like the tile set that you're walking on just like tears apart while you're moving because the pixels don't know where to be, and it can create like a gap. It can create black lines. The tiles can intersect with each other. In this clip, it's doing more of like the revealing a line, but in just a second, you'll see one where it collapses in on itself instead of revealing the background. But bro, I hate it. It looks terrible. Let's get some replay so you can really see all the instances, and it's just bad. The pixel tearing is probably my least favorite one. Either that or the jitter. Anyway, I'm not doing a pixel perfect camera issues tier list. So now I put together this little sample build where I got rid of the fixes that I applied. I didn't even go out of my way to make it specifically terrible. I just kind of got rid of the fixes and let the camera do what it wanted without any extra input from me. And you can see very clearly the issues at play. So here's the first one where I'm using the pixel perfect version of the camera, and you can see it looks terrible. Everything is like shifting around and jittering, there's stutter. It doesn't have boiling because it is pixel perfect, but it's got like all the other issues in troves. And then here's another specific version where instead of using the pixel perfect camera, I'm using like the pixel snap functionality so that we can try to avoid the jitter and the tearing, that sort of thing. And instead you get extreme boiling. Like, look how much this stuff boils while you're moving around. It doesn't look as bad as the jittering version, but I really hate the boiling because it gets rid of all the nice, crispy, clean pixel art, right? We're putting so much effort into the environment art, into the player and all the animations, and all these pixels are super clean. I want it to be reflected in game, not this like boiling mess. And let me zoom in. There's one section, this little branch on the parallax layer in the background, because it's the perfect example. Dude, look at this. Bro, those are supposed to be extremely clean, 1 pixel by 1 pixel, and it's just like a mess. It's boiling like crazy. I hope this makes it clear all the pixel issues I'm talking about. We can go back to the thing I recorded previously. All right, voiceover mode ended. When it comes down to it, it's just there's like lots of little things that you have to care about when it comes to pixel art in games. Across all the game jams I've done, I've always hated the way my sprites look when the camera is like following around the main character because they just squirgle around in the background. And so I want to fix that. I've been looking up a few ways that I can solve these kinds of like pixel jitter issues, and I've already tried some of them in my previous project that didn't work so good, if I'm being completely honest with you. I have a few ideas on how we can solve this problem. The first and most obvious one is that I need to pick like a good resolution for the game. And I've decided that going with 640 by 360 is gonna work the best because that scales by a completely even number for all the different like common monitor sizes. No matter what size the screen is on, if you're playing on full screen, then all the pixel art can be stretched by an even number so that 1 pixel is either represented by a 2x2 grid, or a 3x3 grid, or a 4x4 grid, or a 6x6 grid, depending on the screen size. That's gonna ensure we can keep that super consistent, clean, like pixel art aesthetic where all the pixels are like super nice. So deciding on that screen factor was like the obvious and most important first thing to do. And I'm glad that all my game jam games gave me the knowledge that I needed to do that in the first place. When the character moves, they can move by like 1 or 2 or 3, and those will move really nicely on the camera because it's clean pixels. But if they move by like 1.47, that 0.47 is the part where it gets a little iffy. So instead, I'm going to just move the screen by 1, but then use a shader that shifts around the rendered image from the game by the remaining subpixel. So the camera in the game is the one moving by 1 pixel, and then a shader on top of the rendered image is moving by the remaining subpixel. I think this will work. It lets me avoid just rendering it at 640 by 360 and stretching it out, because when you do that, you lose like ability to like rotate sprites around because, you know, the sprites will look super funky because there are actually only that many pixels to render out to. And then also I don't have to use any of the aspect ratio stuff, which just in my opinion, it leads to more issues than it solves because of the same constraints. We'll be able to render out the game at like a full resolution while also keeping it pixel perfect and also having a smooth camera. That's the goal. I think it's gonna be like a little bit complicated, but I'm looking forward to giving it a try, I think. Yeah, so that's the plan. I'm gonna go mess with the camera for a long time, and then hopefully the sprites won't go like peace.
Good job recording that devlog. Oh, you did a good job, buddy. Yeah. Keep it up, yeah. Let's go.
All right, gamers, got some updates for y'all. First off, stuff from last video I want to follow up on, where we made all that enemy AI stuff, and we were developing some basic behaviors that I thought were like fun to interact with. So we actually got some new enemy designs with animations that I'm excited to show you. So first there was an enemy that he would run along the ground and jump, and you had to either jump over him or go underneath him. And we have his design, and here meet Runktog. He's like a big tree guy that came to life because of the evil, disgusted energy of the forest, turned this fun-loving and free-spirited ent, or it like brought the tree to life into an evil spirit or whatever. He likes to do murders because he's a bad guy. But the art is fantastic. His animations are super clean. Like, look at this walk cycle. Ooh, silky smooth. And I love his charge where he's trying to get you, because it looks like he's happy to be getting ready to murder you. And then he'll slam into the wall and get stunned if you can properly dodge his charge attack. He has his big jump attack, so all of this feels really good. Really happy with this enemy, and he's like super fun to fight against. Plus he just looks sick. Next up on the new enemies to introduce, we have Nuvdu. He's like an owl guy. So we had like the big like testing block for like a flying creature that was like overhead and could like drop like explosive eggs, and I already threw in just some default placeholder like exploding thing that he could drop, because the forest theme is like disgust. It's like a corruption of love. It's like very unwelcoming. And I was like, what's more unloving than a bird dropping its eggs on you to attack? It's like, yo, fuck my egg. So here we got Nuvdu. You can see the art looks fantastic. He feels like some kind of alien owl creature, maybe corrupted and metamorphosized into having these extra wings or something, but I just think he looks great. The flight cycle looks good. His like little like spitty thing he does with his tail when he drops the egg is nice. So yeah, really happy with him. I think he looks great. And then the final enemy I want to update y'all on is Slorg. Show off this cute little guy. So the idea behind this guy is like, what if there was like a cute little woodland creature with like the little bunny ears and just like a little alien, just like a little alien woodland boy, you know, that the Disney princesses might love. But this little guy, when he was getting corrupted by this feeling of like this like lack of love, like his body actually couldn't handle the corruption. Like he actually can't just become a twisted version of himself. So he just like became goo, you know, and that's the basis of this slime creature. And he just kind of like he squirgles along, and then he can like shoot, like he just expels some negative energy. Like his body is unstable, so it's just producing this goop, and so he just has to expel it out of the top, which turns into an attack where he shoots a slime bubble at you. And he just looks not super happy about the situation, but also still kind of cute. So I'm really happy with the way he turned out too. So those three enemies, I think they're super adorable. I think they work really well in game, and I think they're fun to fight against. I will say, I mentioned in the last video that the system felt like a little bit hard to use. And so even though I didn't really have to like write very much code to get these guys working, I just had to like build state machines out of all these nodes and stuff. It was like a little bit complicated in a way that wasn't like super fun. It was a little bit annoying to work with. So yeah, I might want to do like a light refactor or something. I don't know. I'll need to think about it, but at least building these three enemies, it wasn't as incredible as I thought it was going to be using the system I came up with. So got some work to do there. That's the enemy update that I wanted to get to before we talk about the camera system updates. So made some progress on the camera system. Now I was able to build the shader that moves the entire rendered image of the game by the subpixel value, and then the game is pixel perfect. So if you move like 1.4 units to the right, the camera moves 1.4 units to the right, then the game, the actual render of the game, moves 1 pixel to the right in game, like the actual world itself. The camera moves 1 pixel in the world. And then the rendered image that the camera is showing moves by 0.4 to the right. So that like the whole thing shifts by exactly the right amount, but the pixels stay exactly pixel perfect. And we can throw some test footage up so you can see the camera moving correctly. It should just look like the camera's following Isadora, which I mean it is, so I'm happy with that. The one thing I kind of missed, the thing that I sort of overthought when I was working on it, is the fact that I still have to have the like viewport for that be pixel perfect, because that way I can guarantee that the image that's being rendered out is pixel perfect before I shift it by that subpixel value. So suffice it to say, I still can't do any of the like rotations and have it look acceptable, or the squish and stretch and have it look acceptable. And for the most part, that's fine. I think hand drawing squish and stretch on like different animations is like the better way to do it. It feels more like retro and authentic, and doing like subpixel movements in the actual pixel art, which Fur is talented enough to do, instead of actually like doing like manipulations on like a shader or on the actual object itself, on the sprite in game. That's fine. But for some like particle effects and stuff, it's nice to just quickly add some squash and stretch, have it grow a little bit, have it rotate a little bit, just to give it like a little sauce. So losing the ability to do that kind of sucks, because like once you apply like the pixel perfection to it, it looks really weird to do that. Here, so let me throw an example on the screen. Here's like a particle effect type deal, and here it is just showing, and you can like stretch it and squash it, and you can rotate a little bit, and it looks like fine. And then here it is when you apply like the pixel perfect thing to it on like on the viewport. You can see it is a little bit saucy. It's just like it looks a little bit off. It's because of the way that it's trying to handle the pixel perfection. And I understand what it's doing. I just wish it wasn't doing that. So I could just accept this and only have, if I want a particle to rotate, it has to be hand drawn, which I think in some cases totally fine. But I would really like to not have to do that. So I thought of a solution that I started implementing where we have different viewport layers, right? We render a bunch of images on top of each other. It's like a lasagna. Let's call it the lasagna camera. And so this lasagna camera that I've come up with, we have like a front layer viewport, then we have the main world with Isadora in it. Then we have a back layer viewport, and then we have the background. And then the main Isadora layer is a pixel perfect layer that everything is like all good on, and the background is also pixel perfect, and those have the sub-pixel shader keeping them like correctly aligned. And then on the front view and the back viewport, those are not pixel perfect layers. Those are just an actual like render that has all the sub-pixel values inside of it. It doesn't have a fancy shader controlling anything. And on those layers, the sprite that's being shown can be rotated and manipulated, and it'll look like it did in the example. Now, the issue with this is by doing this lasagna system of stacking a bunch of layers on top of each other to have the final image, I was getting a lot of weird behavior, a lot of weirdo bugs that I couldn't quite understand. And so I was trying to debug this. And so I just threw a sprite onto the camera so that I could follow the camera's motion. Because when you have all these viewports stacked on top of each other, a camera is controlling each of those viewports. The camera is what sends to the viewport what needs to be rendered. I need to replicate the camera data from the main world that's following the player across all of the different viewports. So that one camera needs to say, hey, move to the right this much, and then all the rest of the viewports need to like listen to it. So I built a camera system that sends all that information out, but it wasn't behaving correctly. So I threw a random sprite onto the camera to test it and see what it looked like. I just grabbed a random sprite from the folder, and it happened to be one that I kind of imported on accident while I was testing some environment stuff. So it's this weird ass snail. Now we got like the snail lasagna camera. But just this one snail wasn't giving me enough info, so I started throwing a snail like onto like the background layer as well. And then I threw it on another camera, and then I threw it following a point in front of Isadora. So you can just see the slow buildup of all the snails populating my camera system. But so you can see how I have all these snails moving around in the world, showing me what's going on in like the parallel universes where the game is being rendered to different viewports based on what exists in those worlds with their own special cameras, and then all stacked up together in the lasagna system at the end. Have I gone off the rails with this technical explanation? But anyway, I haven't gotten it working yet, but at least the shader's working and I have a plan. So hopefully next update will be it all works. The snails have been exterminated and the lasagna is fresh and ready out the oven, baby. Ooh, dig in, mamma mia. Can I end this section?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out next Tuesday.
I caught it. What's up? Next update. I've gotten a lot of good progress done on the camera, and I'll tell you about that. But first, we got another new enemy, baby. This guy is the Ushroot boy, the little mushroom guy. He was so cute. And I really liked how he represented like the corruption of the cute little mushroom people that lived in this forest. I think it was a great representation of that. But that homie didn't seem that corrupted, you know? It was just like he was kind of angry, is at least what it felt like to me. So I decided we're going to amp that corruption level up by like a lot. We're going to... and so here you can see the corrupted Ushroot. He is the fully corrupted version of my cute little boy. His walk cycle is like vicious, and he looks like he's completely lost it. Looking at him now, it's like he's supposed to be like very unwelcoming, but he kind of looks like he's just gone mad. I don't know. I think it gets the idea across. Let me know what you think of the corrupted Ushroot guy. For the camera, I think we basically got it working. So I discovered an issue where I thought that the subpixel motion on the shader was like working correctly, but then when I checked, Isadora's move speed, I had set it to 180, which if you move at 60 FPS, which is what the game was set to play at, is 3 units per frame, which does not have any subpixel values. So the shader just wasn't working. When I was testing the camera stuff, I decided to increase her move speed by just a little bit to see what it felt like, and suddenly she was violently shaking in the center of frame. Editor senpai, you can throw it up there. You can watch Isadora just not having a good time while the camera tries to follow her. So I realized that the math I was doing on the subpixel stuff was wrong, which I didn't notice in the main world because Isadora was only moving the camera by integer numbers. So I went through that, fixed up all the math, and then suddenly the cameras were working a lot better. And when they were sending their value out to the other render layers, they were having the appropriate values. There were a couple other issues that aren't too important to go into, like the nitty-gritty technical details of how I get the viewport to render correctly on the screen. But just getting the subpixel values passing along correctly so that all the other cameras are like in the right spot made it easier to figure out what was going on with them. So now we can just check this gameplay footage out. Whoa, the camera's following us the door. It's not like the most exciting thing to see. Essentially, it looks like you'd expect. That's like what the point of this was. There aren't any of those little artifacts. There's no tearing. The sprites can like be moved to the appropriate viewport layer. I ended up making way more viewport layers. So I think right now there are like 13 viewports stacked on top of each other. I got a deep dish lasagna. You know what I'm saying? That lasagna got layers. Dude, what is wrong with me? Which I don't think I need all of those probably, but it doesn't hurt anyone. And once I got it working, I went wild with power. I was like, well, they can't contain my viewports. That being said, we have the camera system working and it's awesome. We got all those fun enemies in, and honestly, I'm just feeling really good. Dude, if I'm being honest, so many game jams where my submitted final game was it just had all these little freaking artifacts. Oh, subscribe to my channel and click the like button. Hey, I know it's a random spot to put it, but I noticed in other YouTubers' videos, when they say subscribe to my channel, the subscribe button like glows like a little rainbow color and is so cute. And I wonder if it can only happen the first time. So I just want to interject that there, see if the rainbow button lights up. Then I'm going to say it again at the end of the video and see if it lights up again. This is just for me. This part of the video is for my eyeballs. But yeah, so we got a lot of great stuff. And also, if you subscribe to the channel, it means a lot to me. Really appreciate it. You know, all that good stuff. Really sentimentality. Also, speaking of like, you know, likes and subscriptions, people have been leaving a lot of comments with like suggestions and ideas and like recommendations and like their own thoughts and stuff. And it's super fun to see. I'm really, really happy seeing all of that. And if you have any cool ideas while you're looking at the game, feel free to leave them in the comments. I love reading them. I read every comment, take it very seriously. And I'm thinking, probably not the next video, but here soon, I'm going to work on a video that is, I go through all the comments across all my videos, find the ones that I think have the most like sauce on them, put them in the game, test them, and then see if it works. I don't know how many I'll be able to fit in the video. It depends on how long each one takes. But yeah, I just kind of want to go through, put in people's suggestions and then see if it works or not. And then just basically, if you leave comments on this video, there's a chance, a pretty good chance that the thing you suggest will happen in development, and then you'll get to see the result. And maybe it won't work, maybe it will work, but I think that'll be a lot of fun. And then I got plenty of other stuff coming up. Might start working on the mini boss soon, might start working on some other systems. I don't know, got a lot of cool stuff in the pipes. Now that the camera is working, I don't have to deal with all the issues that happens with the pixel perfect camera stuff. And we have the AI system that is a little cumbersome, but at least I can put enemies in the game. Yeah, maybe start on some like real full-blown level design. Yeah, a lot of great stuff in the works. Okay, so now we're gonna do my experiment. Subscribe! Please click the subscribe button. I was trying to think of another way to exaggerate that, but I just want to see if it lights up twice. All right, yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you were curious, I also built like screen shake into the camera system. So watch the screen go, whoa, 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 whoa. Knowing Editor Senpai, they're just going to do that to like my zoomed in face. They're going to shake it around instead of showing the game footage, but I'm going to film the game footage. I mean, maybe he'll put it after. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace out, baby.
See you dorks, you freaking nerds.
I don't know what this spider finger thing is, but can I keep it like right along the top of the camera? Spider fingers. All right, pop.